As we reported at the top of the program, the battle over energy and how to relieve the financial stress on our middle class figured prominently in the presidential race today. So joining me now are three of the savviest political observers in America. We have CNN contributor Hank Sheinkopf, a Democratic strategist. We have James Taranto, editor of OpinionJournal.com, and CNN contributor Errol Louis, a radio host and columnist for the New York Daily News. Gentlemen, thanks for being with me. We both candidates today talking about energy. It seems to me, with Americans paying this price over this duration of time, seems a little bit too little too late, and there's no immediate solution being proposed. Hank, your thoughts on this?
Something's being proposed to force John McCain to respond, to get a campaign going. Barack Obama has something for everybody in his proposal, but remember where he's traveling to next week, the Midwest, where the most economic hurt is going on right now and where people are being hurt at the pump as well.
Errol?
Yeah, that'd be striking. In his speech today, Obama was mentioning things that I didn't know, that, the leading place where they make materials to put together solar panels comes out of Michigan, a state where he needs to do well in the election, coincidentally enough, and where he had very nice things to say as well as about the auto industry. So, yeah, we're in, full court pander. Not the best way for this discussion to go forward, but at least we're talking energy.
This is an absolutely critical discussion going on right now. Do you think the Americans are satisfied with this at this point?
No, although I applaud Obama for finally coming to his senses on domestic drilling. On the other hand, Obama was saying last week he doesn't want short-term solutions. He'd been criticizing for a long time McCain's gas tax holiday, which indeed is a silly gimmick. He was right about that. But then today he says, let's open up the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. There's not much more of a short-term solution than that, a temporary increase in supply. And the most ridiculous idea, perhaps this year, is this idea that Obama put out last week, where he said, I want to put a tax on oil companies to pay an energy rebate to consumers. So he's taxing the production of oil and subsidizing the consumption of oil, which is a recipe for higher gas prices.
I'm glad you said it, because when I read that proposal, I was flabbergasted at the priorities on that. Let me Obama's really sort of reversed his energy policy. And let me play for you a comment that he said about some offshore drilling. Here's what he said.
Like all compromises, this one has its drawbacks. It does include a limited amount of new offshore drilling. And while I still don't believe that's a particularly meaningful short-term or long-term solution, what I've said is I'm willing to consider it if it's necessary to actually pass a comprehensive plan.
That sounds very qualified, doesn't it, James?
Very much so. And obviously, Obama has to appeal to the people who are against the idea of despoiling our coast, even though we're talking about very far offshore, not within the horizon, and people who just don't like the idea of burning oil altogether.
Hank, what are your thoughts on this so-called Obama reversal of position?
Everything in politics is in a 30-second soundbite and in a commercial. So I want to see the soundbite that says Obama, while trying to bring gas prices down, has made an error. Not going to work, not a good television commercial, and will force McCain to somehow look antedated and old.
Well, McCain today was calling on Senator Obama to get Congress back into Washington to address the energy crisis. Let's listen to what he had to say.
I call on Senator Obama to call on Congress to come back into town and come back to work, come off their recess, come off their vacation, and address this energy challenge to America, and don't leave until we do. Republican and Democrat joining together.
It's dramatic.
Well, it's not quite believable to have John McCain suddenly try to run against the Beltway. He's spent too many decades there for it to have any real resonance. And certainly the idea of asking a junior senator to sort of round them all up. I mean, so substantively, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. On the other hand, the shot, him standing with the blue-collar workers behind him, demanding action out of Washington, it's tried and true. They've been doing it on the Republican side of the aisle since Reagan and before. So maybe it'll get him some traction.
It's funny because Senator Obama has a new ad today about energy, and it basically reads, every time you fill your tank, the oil companies fill their pockets, and now big oil's filling John McCain's campaign with $2 million in contributions, because instead of taxing their windfall profits to help drivers, McCain wants to give them another $4 billion in tax breaks. This whole linkage of big oil, profits, and the consumer being hurt, I mean, it does resonate with the American public, but some of these linkages, as you point out, James, are a little bit weak, right?
Well, who does Obama think is going to pay for higher taxes on oil production? Ultimately, it's going to be the consumer.
We have no end of proposals coming from the wings. Boone Pickens, we have a lot of discussion about energy. Are we getting anywhere at this point, Hank?
We're getting nowhere, but we have to win a presidential campaign. Someone does. And therefore, he who can make the best argument about reducing the cost at the pump down is the one people will be listening to.
Any thoughts on who's winning?
I think there is some progress. I mean, some of the talk about solar, about wind, about alternatives, it's starting to make some sense. Talking about putting tax credits in that direction, it now makes sense just for financial reasons because the price of oil and the price of alternative is sort of, you know, the ratio is starting to work out. So, you know, you couldn't have talked about this 4 years ago or 8 years ago. Now, at least the discussion has begun.
Well, you know, what's driving this discussion is not the political season. It's absolutely the necessity of addressing this issue. If we didn't have $4 gas, then we wouldn't be talking about this on the political campaign. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back in a minute. We'll have much more with our panel, the day's presidential politics, when we come back. Stay with us. I'm back with our panel, Democratic strategist Hank Sheinkopf, Opinion Journal editor James Taranto, and New York Daily News columnist Errol Louis. Let's look at a couple of polls. This is a really interesting time because the polls are so tight. And, you know, I have to say, every time I look at these, I'm shocked at how tight it is. Obama, 47%. McCain, 44%. Unsure, 9%. It's a good, you know, chunk for unsure. And that's the poll of polls, national general election. What do you think about the tightness of these polls, James?
You would think Obama would be way ahead just because a Republican is in the White House and people are so unhappy with President Bush and have been for a long time. On the other hand, it's the first time since 1952 that neither the sitting president nor the vice president is running. So maybe it's just an unfamiliar territory.
Yeah, I mean, also when you break those polls down into the swing states, the 14 or so states where they're really going to go at it, you know, there are many states, you know, Missouri, Michigan, Pennsylvania, where McCain is outspending Obama considerably, and then conversely, Obama is outspending him in, you know, Georgia and North Dakota. So what's really interesting to me is the efficacy of those ads. There are states where Obama is spending heavily and getting nowhere against McCain, and the same is true in the other direction.
Isn't that interesting, Hank?
The bottom line here is that no one knows anything about either of them, and those who have decided have decided. This is going to be a very tight race or a very distant race. There'll be nothing in between here.
You know, some of the discussion now about the vice presidential picks is that it's more critical than ever, that normally it isn't that critical. Now it's going to be crucial in this race. We have 3 weeks till the Democratic convention. Obama, where do we stand on this? What are your thoughts on his VP picks, James?
Boy, it's really tough. The only thing I'll say for sure is it's not going to be Hillary Clinton.
You know, there's such pressure in the discussion circles on Hillary Clinton, but you think it's not?
He doesn't want to have 3 presidents in the White House, Hillary, Bill, and himself.
Hillary's more or less said that she doesn't want to be considered, which is a candidate's way of saying that she's not a candidate anymore, and they've pretty much let her know she's not going to be. As they're arranging the order of speakers, she's lining up a keynote role, but that's not the same as being the vice presidential candidate. So she's out of it. But, you know, in both cases, the vice presidential candidate, the pick is intended to sort of bring the party together. And so those portions of the party who are still loyal to Hillary Clinton, who aren't happy with Obama, he's going to have to make them happy. If it's not going to be with her, it'll have to be somebody that she strongly approves of, for sure.
And I'll make you jump parties. McCain, apparently he's reporting doing a very thorough vetting of Virginia Congressman Eric Cantor. There's several names in the mix. What do you think about McCain?
I wouldn't be doing a Cantor. I'd be doing someone from the Midwest. And frankly, going back to my Democratic hat, Evan Bayh looks better every day. Why? He's got to win the Midwest. He's got to win those states.
Yeah, Evan Bayh definitely in the list. And then do you think it will go straight down to the convention?
Probably it'll be down to the polls before the convention in particular regions. Rest assured, the Obama campaign and the McCain campaign will be polling to find out where they need to win, and that's where they'll be trying to get some heft.
Any surprises you're anticipating, or you think it will just follow along in a predictable pattern?
Well, I think what's unpredictable is there seems to be some sentiment that the McCain camp is going to wait and see what Obama does and wait till the Democratic convention is over and then make its final choice. So if they're in that level of sort of strategic delay and timing, I think we could be in for some real drama.
All right. We will be in for drama. Rest assured on that. Errol Louis, Sheinkopf, James Taranto, thank you. Tonight's poll results, 97% of you are outraged that the city of San Francisco is spending taxpayer dollars to protect illegal aliens and to circumvent federal law. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you later. For all of us here, thanks for watching. Goodbye from New York.